Arts Charter School Board of Trustees meeting, June 13, 2012. Again, the time is 6:42. Welcome, public. And any comments? This is the time for it. This is public comment. We are allocating roughly in the past 10 minutes. People that want to speak are more on the table. And we do ask that if you can limit it to a certain amount of time. Just usually see 3 minutes, but when we have 10 minutes, whatever time you need, I think that will fit. Okay, so the board will recognize Jason.
We also are being videotaped.
Oh, that's right. Okay, thank you, Art, for making that.
First, I have a quick question, and that is the 501c3 corporation name. Do you have the name of that organization here?
Yes, this is really not a question and answer
period. There's no period of time to ask a question.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
that's
the Gloucester Community Arts Foundation.
Okay, and secondly, I'm just submitting to you formally 2 open meeting violation complaints for your consideration. And just to let you know, I will be submitting those to the AG's office and DPSC tomorrow. The last complaint that I've submitted to this department did not get reported to the AG's office as required. So I just want to give you a heads up. You probably want to do that. Thank you.
And we will consider these submitted. Okay. Are there any more public comments?
Do you have an extra copy of the agenda?
Do you have an extra copy of the agenda?
Yes, that's the easy one.
All right. On to the next moment. We'll review the agenda. We'll review and approve minutes. We'll go through the state of school report. We'll go through the committee reports. An update on the current staffing and plans for hiring. And we'll review the draft calendar 2012-2013. A motion to approve the calendar for the year. And a review and motion to approve updates. Following documents for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And the consideration of the agenda for items for the July 4 meeting. And then we'll adjourn. So let's start with the review and approval of minutes. The minutes that we have for approval.
So there were some sent out as draft form electronically. So I move to approve the minutes of meeting March 14th.
Second.
Tom, do you have that electronically?
I'll pull it up.
I have some corrections to make on that.
I have minutes.
Okay. So Amanda Cook was attending that meeting, and she videoed that meeting. And number 3, the spelling of Julie. Number 5, regarding the line of credit, I think we need to explain what that section's about. It says something about being pulled back, and there's reference to an appeal. I think just a little more context for that, for those 2 things.
Where is the?
I think it's section 5.
Dave, I think that was probably a reference to the legal appeal.
I know what it's
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
No,
Thanks. Yeah.
So,
Section 6 is reference to me and us in there, I think it should be more formal language and doing too much writing instruction these days, but taking that up.
And you went tougher than Dave Buchanan. Try to misspell on him.
Changes to the second sentence, the ideal model for a school such as GCA. Other positions for consideration are a literacy coordinator, etc.
Section 7, I think it's a misspelling, the word expressed.
Where is it in
I don't have it from here, I just have some notes. Section 7.
the? Yeah.
I think it's a minor thing.
Okay.
Under that same section, there's reference to donations, and I think I'll say there's a goal set at whatever amount it was by July 1st. And that's it. So I move to approve the minutes of the meeting of March 14th as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, vote please. All in favor?
So I'll move to approve the minutes of March 24th. These are minutes of the open session of that meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
And move to approve the minutes of March 31st, also for the open session.
Second. Almost to April.
Any discussion? Ready to vote, please? All in favor?
Tony, I think you sent some notes for April 11th as well, correct?
Correct.
So I need to approve those minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor?
And move to approve the minutes of May 16th. Which
Second.
I don't think I've seen, actually.
They're the ones here.
Yeah, those are the ones we got.
16th or 15th, Dave?
On 16.
Okay.
16th of May.
May 16th. Does anybody have any comments on it?
Yeah, section 7, line 3. Needs to be an D after that chap's name.
Dean? Noted.
So amended.
Anything else?
I didn't actually read that out.
Oh, I thought you got, I'm sorry.
I have one more question. In Part C, Section 6, Program Committee, it says Dr. Bean's report is attached, and I don't know if that has to be hard copy piece of paper with this. I don't know
Should
that
be on our,
I sent that to everybody, but I don't know if in the context of approving minutes, we have to have that with this document.
Well, presumably everybody read that.
Mm-hmm.
It should be posted with that.
Right, and I sent it to Tony, so.
So, I forget where we are here. I think I moved to approve these minutes of May 16th
Second. But you have to approve them as amended, because he actually made an amendment.
as amended, correct? So,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you again, Tony and Dave, for helping us get the minutes from the past month that we did. That's a lot of work and good. Thank you.
And we're now current, right? Are we not current on minutes? So that's quite an achievement. So, because your exactitude is unbelievable. And welcome.
That's not a word. That's not a word.
Welcome.
Exactly.
Anyway, why don't we move ahead with the state of the school report? The executive director will provide an update on year-end events, graduation ceremonies, first graduating class.
so year-end, obviously, very exciting time of year, went very well. I want to thank the faculty for just an incredible amount of work in the last several weeks this school year. A triumphant field day with events planned out by the faculty and with them participating. Our first 8th grade trip where they went off to Canopy Lake and had a great time. I think particularly bonded as a class over that. And then the multiple graduation rehearsals, graduation for, I think, almost everyone who was there. Was a very special event. The 8th grade, along with and then faculty in their gowns and hoods for the degrees that they have received, and we're all piped into the main hall by the Stewart Highlanders, 2 pipers and the Sneer, and all the board as well coming in, and I think very, very exciting. We had 2 fantastic graduation speakers, James Cooperoo and Jocelyn Janulis, did an outstanding job. We'll be sending packet of information into the Gloucester Daily Times. Sadly, it was the only graduation in the entire North Shore area that was not covered by the papers. Mayor Kirk came and spoke at the commencement ceremonies, which was fantastic. And she spoke about advocacy and in terms of the experience of our parents, their students, and all of our faculty and board members fighting for the school and pushing to have it open, and the importance of courage. And these are absolutely core values of any democracy. And just stunning, very, very moving speech, talking about her own movement and to where she is really supportive of the importance of choice in the city of Gloucester. And so I thought it was fantastic, really fantastic. So, we had some really great diplomas, obviously, to hand out to them. They were very proud. I think anyone who heard those graduates speak could hardly question the quality of the education they received, and particularly for James Cooper, who talked about how he felt about school before and how he feels about his education now and his self-confidence and looking to his future with not just hope, but I think self-confidence about what he can achieve. And then Jocelyn, I think, equally fantastic speech, and to have memorized the first part of it, and then gone all the way through it, and then started to lose her train of thought and remain poised, and sort of took her time, found her place in her written copy, and then continued on completely sort of unflappable. And you think of the maturity that it takes to do that. And I've seen much, much older, adults not manage to pull that off with the grace that she did. So it was just a really exciting end of the year, and everyone gathered outside afterwards for cider and lots of, hugs, and it was just great.
I'd like to say on behalf of all the board, I know I speak for everybody, that we're really proud of what happened and how it happened, and your work to get this so well organized. You even got the trustees in line. The pomp and circumstance was phenomenal. But thank you, Tony. As a business person, having many clients in this Gloucester and Cape Ann area, I got so much feedback over the weekend how people, irregardless of some of this minor press, the people heard that this was an event, probably from parents and visitors, that was beyond reproach, and it was awesome. And I think the kids were proud. It was very unusual, and it was a historic event from the standpoint of school 8th grade graduations. And so it was. I was shocked at how many people knew what happened here Friday night. So thank you, Tony.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would just add to that what a really moving and powerful experience of the graduation was. I mean, it really was a moment, and it seems as though so good for the school to end with such a searching, profound moment, and a school committed as we are to providing people with experiences, provided people with a culminating experience that was really extraordinary.
And that with everyone, I mean, obviously any of these things, it takes, full community and their support, and I particularly want to recognize just around the graduation middle school staff. They put a lot of thought into it as well, and I thought the moment at the end there where they talked to the students about, it was really now looking out and moving to a different level, and they talked about, their work in helping seeds, meaning them, the 8th grade, to grow and develop and that they gathered as the graduates marched out behind the pipes and passed out these little bags of seeds that they had put together for each of the graduates to take with them as they headed out into the world. So thank you. It was great fun, obviously. Great event.
I'd like to add another comment, particularly for our viewing audience. Not too many people know that Tony drove all the way to Lawrence to get the regalia for the staff at a critical time on a day before graduation when everything had to be organized. He not only took the lunch to the field day at Camp Spindrift, but from there he had to drive up to Lawrence, get all the materials and bring them back. Meanwhile, there were people who wanted to meet with him, but he wasn't in the building. So it was that kind of sacrifice of time, energy, and resources that often go unheralded, and sometimes making the choices to do what's best for the whole means that certain individual situations can't be attended to immediately. So it's important that we highlight that goals and plans for the future involve putting in place systems to keep that kind of detail in somebody else's pocket, not the executive director.
That's true. The wonderful detail was as Tony took off to go do that, remember they called you back and said, I think Brian Tar's here. He spun around. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Tony, is there a way to get a copy of the students' speeches?
Yeah, I actually have both of them, and they're going in as part of this, or out as part of this press packet to all the papers on the North Shore. So absolutely, we'll send you.
And on our own parents list, too.
Yeah.
One other item I'd like to talk about, there were 2 faculty members from that O'Malley School who were at graduation. You probably know who they are. And they said, we have learned a lot from this.
That's nice, Tom.
I like that. I like that.
Just as a final thank you, Chris Ahern and Brianna Setti. Brianna Setti's the English teacher, and they worked with the 2 senior speakers on helping them craft what they wanted to say, and then working on their elocution and delivery, and so just a real team effort there. And congratulations to both of them. They must have felt very proud as they watched the 2 of them. Orientation planning, we have a number of different things happening for next year. As you know, the Tall Ships Parade happens in just a few weeks' time in Boston to celebrate the War of 1812. And one of those tall ships is coming out to Gloucester to take the middle school students out on a sail in September and do a day-long leadership training, actually over a 2-day period. So I think that's going to be very exciting. We also have the 8th grade coming in back early in August to be part of the planning orientation for all new students. And there are a couple of different plans in process there. One is to go out to Rams Island on an overnight, doing some leadership training with Project Adventure staff, and we also have been in touch with Camp Kiev in May. So a couple of different programs that we're looking at there. But we really are going to move to having the 8th grade as our leadership students being much more present in welcoming all of the students. You may have actually noticed or not noticed that graduation at the end, as the graduates walked out, Jay, thank you, Jay, jumped in to pass out these roses that we had there. And that was just so that the first 8th grade would not miss what will become a tradition of the school, which is that on opening day, the 8th grade oldest students in the school, our leadership students, will greet each new kindergarten student with a rose on opening day. And at the ceremony next year, to have it come the full circle, the young kindergarten students who were greeted on opening day by them we'll hand each graduate a rose as they depart to go out into the, a couple of neat things happening there. And then in terms of professional development, you actually heard some of what we're doing there. Dave Buchanan was actually in today to work with staff in terms of the implications of the new standards and providing really fantastic workshop just in preparing them to do some of the work they're going to be doing over the summer. We also have a number of different programs for math that are being looked at in terms of professional development and training over the summer. And the staff are coming back early, so our staff will be returning on August 22nd. It's their first day back, and they will do a week and a half of training and preparation before the start of the school year. What else in here? In terms of update on, it's really the CPR preparation, and we have that review in October. We filed documents on June 30th. I spoke to our SPED staff and to Jed O'Connor, who's the SPED director for Marblehead, who has been helping us with that preparation. We had one more student as of today to enter in, and then all the data entry is complete, and then the documents have to be filed on the 30th. The last remaining component in that preparation is a civil rights report, and he is working on that for us. And I think that's it in terms of item number 4.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks very much. The committee reports. Let's start with the Finance Committee. We just had the Finance Committee meeting. Cindy Marie's here to basically, Cindy Marie, if you want to take 1 minute, 5 minutes, whatever, and discuss the budget that the Finance Committee is recommending that the board approve. If you'd like to go through it now.
Should I look at that up again? I'm sorry.
If you want to do that, I think we could probably go through the basic, what the assumptions were for the tuition, what the assumptions were for the number enrolled, what the range was on both, because you've got sort of 2 sliding variables there, and also what the things that we will do a little better for, the things we have to work a little harder for, just the salient features of that. Oh, there we go. Great. Thanks.
Okay. Sorry. So the projected enrollment is 180. It's a big jump up from this year, but you're adding 2 grades. And currently your tuition rate is at 11,944. The state projected 11,897 for the September tuition. That's a projection that will change in December and will change in March and June. So in next June 30th, you'll know what your tuition is next year. But right now, I think we're estimating a conservative number here at 11,650. So what we did also is grants are reduced substantially, meaning because of the START grant going away next year. Private contributions, I think this is a very realistic number. I think that this is probably going to be more like 50 or 75, but this is very doable. And so again, it's a budget, so we're going to be conservative. Nutrition reimbursements, not a lot to talk about there. Basically what I've done is, what you spend should be what you get back. But I do have about a $5,000 expense built in, and you'll see that down below. So that's your income at 2.2. And staff, that's a really good org chart that Tony came up with, I'm sure with the board's help, and to meet all his objectives. I think we are estimating high on benefits. So I think we're estimating low on income and high on expenses. You start to get some economies of scale when you get into the administrative costs. We actually will be much lower next year on admin costs. Just a lot of efficiencies that we've created this year. And facility costs are flat. And we are increasing instructional costs. We're putting money into technology in the classroom. But we're also, keeping a pretty good number here for OT and PT. You just don't know what your needs are going to be until the kids are in the building. So I think it's a conservative budget. I think the biggest trick here is the enrollment.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, do we hear, the Finance Committee met earlier to recommend that the board approve this budget. It's part of our deliverable to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts DSE, I believe, by June 30th. Correct, Tom?
It's the budget is due on August 1.
I just wanted to, okay. So, is there any reason why we should not have a vote? No. So, would you have a motion to approve the budget as we put together for fiscal year 2013?
So moved.
Second. I think it's the first, and maybe second that.
Second.
Thank you, Jake. Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Tony and Cindy for their work putting it together, and for both of you for taking questions at the previous meeting at Finance just now. I think we answered a lot of questions in the course of that meeting, and I'm voting for it.
And from a programmatic standpoint, I think I can speak for everybody on the program committee. We appreciate your conservative approach to putting in a certain budget item as well as numbers, because if it exceeds either one of those, it doesn't necessarily make everything comfortable, but it gives us some room to maneuver and support the staff in ways that heretofore may not have happened. So thank you for doing that.
Just a final comment. This is one of the areas where the much higher level of engagement in terms of the collaborative effort with the board committees, the communication between program committee, finance committee, and with Cindy and I directly, I think just made this a really, I think, very thoughtful process in which thinking about the needs of faculty, the delivery of program for students, all of the critical pieces that had to happen, and particularly in terms of this strategic change in the leadership structure, so that everything, absolutely everything, is directed towards the mentoring and support of teachers and teaching, and ultimately through that, of course, of students and achievement. And I think it's a really, really good process. And having some tough questions sometimes was really good. So, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of accepting the finances? Please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, the Facilities Committee will now give the board an update.
The only, we didn't meet today, but the only thing I can say is that I visited the Montessori School, which is the Harbor Light School in Beverly, and spoke to the CFO and the athletic director. And we talked about it, and I took pictures of their facility, which is exactly what we want to build. And they did what we have to do. They had to dig up a parking lot area, regrade it, level it off. And I have pictures of this entire situation. And the approximate cost was only finished 6 months ago, which includes the grading, hot top, lining, baskets, portable baskets, fencing, and grass all around it. And the total cost was $51,000. And they also gave us the name of each contractor that did each phase: the fencing company, the lining company, Dick's Sporting Goods for the baskets, the fencing company, the hot top. We have everything. And I gave it to Tony, and he's been talking to them. And they're wonderful, cooperative people. And I think, with Mick here, let's go for it. We gotta start talking about this and hopefully have this ready in the fall.
Yeah, Mick will contribute to 51,000.
What would the,
Come on, Mick.
No, you said you were writing the check.
No, I'll do the 1 if he'll do the 50.
Will you have a plan for the next meeting to propose things? I know there's a timeline and everything for all this, there's bidding, there's a lot
Just
of...
give it.
Well, I was hoping Aaron, would be here. I'll have to call him
Yeah.
and talk with him about, the strategic proper way to go around this. Maybe the three of us can meet and talk about what the next step is to get this going. So that's all I have to say about that. The playground committee, the fence is going up, right? You know when?
No, they need to get a check and then they'll be putting it up.
You need to get a check.
And Tony's taking care of it.
Oh,
Don't worry
okay.
about it.
And
Big news.
So could you explain what that?
Yeah,
The fence?
It's a little detail on that, yes.
That would be helpful.
Thanks, Dale, about that.
you know the Great Wall of China? Well, anyway, it's a fence going on the main street and up the driveway to protect the kids from anything like roaming into the streets. And it comes from, I believe, Lowe's, and they are supplying the labor subcontractors. Yep. And it's a start to then put facilities in the playground.
Yeah, it's and it's being funded partly through the grant from Lowe's and partly from the Parents Association raised funds, and so and it's a really nice sort of iron-looking black fence. And part of what we wanted was a fence that was not only high enough and solid enough to protect kids, but on which students could actually get involved in personalizing it, making it fit with an art school. And so we were looking at, you had all these sort of much more traditional looking fences that are basically solid wood, and not much you can do with that. That makes it feel like a part of, that it sort of makes a statement about the kind of school you are. And this had the ability, and we found a couple of examples on the internet of schools that had sort of really used their fences to put up, fantastic displays and stuff like that.
How about commercial advertising? And then we can raise
So it's not going to be like those fences in Danvers, the new ones that are sound barriers?
Oh, Jesus.
No, not like that.
So is this fence?
That's great.
Does this fence really close in the entire playground, or is it open to this driveway?
It goes up the driveway about 2/3 of the way until there's a hill, and it goes along the street on the entire length of the area that is, and then rocks come into being, so it's well protected. And
So we got to talk about kids' access to the driveway. That's one.
Yeah, this would protect, in terms of where the door comes out on the side, this would really provide protection for them to go straight down into the, because remember, we are moving the 2-3 classrooms. K1 will be right here, so the youngest students actually going to be able to go straight out and around into the playground, and it comes almost up to right where the doorway is. So they'd have to work pretty hard to get around the teacher and into the driveway.
the last thing is we talked about the maintenance during the summer, the painting, the building of doorways, and that's all being planned.
Yeah, and is coming up to give us some sense of what can be done in terms of installing the doors, and then we'll be getting bids on the costs.
Great. Anything else from your standpoint on the facilities?
Can I just interject here from a procedural point of view? This board meeting is for the board members to discuss.
Okay.
So we really can't even, we have to make a provision to recognize Mick in the
All right.
So forgive me, Mick, but just to be
I'll be
clear
working
about our
with him.
procedure.
I'll be working with him on the. We don't want to have another summons, but anyway. I'll be working with him and Aaron and get this report ready for our next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's a great report. Thanks very much. The next report is from the program committee. The chair will provide an update on the committee's program goals, reports, cards, and planning for next year.
Okay, I sent everybody on the board yesterday an outline. I'll just go through this without reading the program committee's mission. Generally speaking, program committee members involved in overseeing and supporting program development in the areas of curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And assessment is formal standardized assessment as well as report cards. So that's an umbrella term. And school culture. Dave and Tony in the budget and finance meeting talked about ANET. Another important aspect of GCA's academic life we will discuss is the various service options which we did, or you guys did, for the Achievement Network, ANET. The Achievement Network is a nonprofit organization committed to helping all students achieve academic excellence by using data-driven strategies to raise student achievement. And finally, we intend to establish 2012-2013 program committee goals dedicated to advancing GCA's mission as stated in the charter.
Any questions for Art? Thank you, Art.
You're entirely welcome, Mr. Chairman.
So that will finish the committee reports. On the next agenda, item number 6, update on current staffing and plans for hiring for staff for the 2012-2013 academic year.
We have hired a school counselor for next year. We have made an offer to a grade 4-5 teacher who was just blew everybody away when she came in and demonstrated on Monday. I actually met her at the Leslie Job Fair. This is a career change for her. She's actually an artist. And had a career in the arts first, then went to Harvard University for Graduate School of Education, Arts Integration Program, area of concentration, and just really exciting. It would be a fantastic addition to the faculty. And then we are about to make an offer to a K1 teacher, and we have strong candidates for school psychologist part-time. We're in conversations with an experienced special education director who is currently retired, but is interested in working with us, and so those discussions are ongoing, but very exciting. And Director of Education, we have a number of finalists identified, and are holding on that process because we have a couple more individuals we'd actually like to talk to first. And so I think all of that's good. The instructional coach, we actually chose to delay that hire, even though we have a very strong applicant pool for it. But the feeling is that, and in fact, coming from almost every candidate for the post of Director of Education, they've indicated that they'd actually like to get in the building, visit all the classes, see all the teachers teach, and have a sense of where they feel the skill set is of the person that they want to have come in and join the partnership as the instructional coach. So I think all of that very positive. You know I will actually be away as of tomorrow night. I will be flying to Ireland to go visit my old school, which I'm very excited to do, and visit with friends there. But we will not be slowing this process down. So various chairs of the various hiring committees are going to be continuing to interview. I will be available through Skype to talk to candidates as well. So I think we want to continue to move the process forward. And so I will make sure that all board members have my Skype address or whatever you call it. I don't know what you call it, the Skype phone number. What else can I tell you about that?
You can tell them only Skype if it's an emergency, because you need a week off, brother.
Yes.
Thank you.
So unless you're holding up the process, please don't answer your phone.
This is a way overdue vacation.
How long are you going to be gone?
For, I think it's 11 days, but I think I'm in the air for 2 of them. So, you know, it sounds like a long time, and I realize getting there is a big chunk of it. But
There's a rumor telling me that you can stay in the air because you can't answer phones.
You can't be Skyped, do you?
good planning. I like
So
this.
what day do you usually come back?
I think we fly in on the 27th, 26th or 27th.
That's Tuesday.
Yeah. I'll let you know, James, about my travel. Yeah, we're actually staying with one of my former board members over there, and he is the owner of Riverdance. And so they have given us their guest house to stay in, which is actually 400 feet straight up on a cliff above the Irish Sea. So quite.
I think it should be the Riverdance basketball court. What do you think? You see how that fits a little bit?
Yes.
Well, we all wish you
Yeah,
well on
it has a
vacation,
certain,
but before, so we can get the vacation, let's get to the rest of the meetings.
Number 6.
Number 6, yeah. Well, 6 we've done. Number 7, review the draft calendar for 2012-2013.
Okay.
Motion to approve the calendar for the 2012-2013 academic year. Tony?
I'm sending it, right?
Oh, okay. Wait, it's fast. Okay. Oops. I don't know what exactly happened there. We're not quite getting the full screen. I think enough. Can you guys see? Or
Yeah.
okay. So key elements of the calendar. Obviously, 180 days, and then 5 snow days, so up to 185 to meet just the sort of basic requirements. In this calendar here, you'll see that staff are returning on August 22nd. For just over a week of orientation work before the school year starts. And then our first day of school is on September 4th, the same as it is for Gloucester. Prior to that, just we also have, sorry where you can't see the whole thing. There's also a teacher visit day on August 30th, and that'll be a day where all staff are in and available in their classrooms, so parents can come in with their children. Not on the calendar yet in July, because it's not part of our official filing with the state, but we will be hosting a number of events in July and August, which the staff are very excited about today, where the different grade groups and one whole school get-together will be held down in Stageport Park, similar to what we did in the first year.
That's a really good idea.
And then, so September 4th, the first day, and no sort of major things other than that there. October, our parent conferences we're on a trimester system for next year. And so parent-teacher conferences are actually worked in, so they come more or less in the middle of the trimester. So parents are able to come in and speak to staff and learn how their kids are doing, so that there are no surprises there. And so for us, particularly, this is October 24th and 25th, so 2 half days where staff can be up here from 1 o'clock on through into the late afternoon, so families who are coming back from work will still be able to have a parent-teacher conference and have it work in their time frame. Then,
So that, Tony, that's mid-first trimester, roughly.
correct.
Okay.
Then November, we tried more this year to do what other schools were doing in terms of election day. So all of the systems, Rockport, GCA, Gloucester, it's a no school day. We did not do that this year. So parent feedback was that they wanted to have that put in, so we did. What may be a little confusing to you is all of these purple elements are what the GPS calendar is, and then yellow is what Rockport's doing. So our Thanksgiving vacation is the same. The trimester for Rockport ends on the 28th, and I believe ours is just after that. It may not be in the calendar. Anything on the holiday? We have 3 Saturdays in the program, and that's because everyone's in for the open houses anyway. And so we wanted to work a class day in, and students just stay on for the open house, which the kids found exciting this year to be a part of that. So we actually worked that into the calendar. We're starting them earlier this year, so that the first open house is in October on the 13th, and the next open house is in November on the 17th, and then another one in February. With those added in, the holiday break in December is actually 2 full weeks, which I think families and clearly staff will appreciate. So we actually return on the 7th of January. The open house, next open house is January 12th. We feel this is going to give us a head start in terms of building those who want to be in the lottery and register for it. You remember that we get very busy with lotteries from in February and in March to maximize the pre-enrollment.
Tony, how does Gloucester go back to school?
Gloucester's back on January 2nd, I believe. So they go back on the Wednesday and have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week.
Tony, I have a question.
Yep.
And that is, the calendar that you're showing us now for the school year, is that something that can be preliminarily sent to parents when it's ready, even before special events get added to
Oh
it?
yeah, we want to send this out. Actually, if we sign off on it tonight, we want to send it out in this draft form. Obviously, not yet filed with the charter office, but then in terms of the major holidays, parents are well informed way ahead of time.
Okay.
So that's what we want to do.
All right.
February.
So, sorry, just to get back to the Christmas holiday break there. What's the reason for extending the time on that?
Well, the Rockport actually started their year the week before, so they brought students in on the 27th, I think it is, I can see, of August. I don't have it on there. Anyway, yeah, so teachers arrive on the 27th, students start on the 28th, and then they have no school on Friday the 31st, so that they have the long weekend. But they just took those 3 days and stuck them at the end of the year, so you'll see that they end earlier. But in discussions, particularly with staff, the feeling was that they would come back more sort of revitalized and rested, because you end up picking up, instead of coming back midweek, which to have school on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, in general, most schools tell you that the kids come back wired, really hard to have a good productive week when they know they're coming in for such a short week and then they're out again. And so rather than end the year 3 days earlier, which didn't seem of particular value, that we would rather have the longer break where you pick up the weekends. So you've got 3 full weekends plus the 5 days, and everyone gets a real rest. So that was the big.
That's going to be a concern for parents. Because staff will be rested, and teachers will, parents will be worn out.
That's true.
Just give
That's a good thing, actually.
counterpoint on that one.
Well, it's funny, we did float it out there with quite a few families, and they felt, some of them, that they were actually going to go away with it, and that they might not have done that, because it was a relatively short break based on the calendar year. So, yeah, you're always going to, I mean, that's kind of one of those ones where, you know, you're never going to win with everybody. But mid-year, getting ready to kick off the second half of it, if I can get a really rested staff back, it's worth a lot, I think. Then let me get back to, so February break's the same as is the April break as all the other school districts. The parent conferences are in March, and again, those are half days for students, and then parent conferences starting at 1 in the afternoon and going into the later afternoon. You know, this year we were very late in communicating some of these dates, so you know, we did not have in the calendar that we were going to do the same as the other schools in terms of Good Friday being an early release, but we have done that. We did do it ultimately this year, but the notice was very late, so we have put it in. These actually reflect where Rockport's putting their MCAS dates. We haven't scheduled those yet, so we have to have Sarah Gillen look at that and decide where we're going to be on that one. It's our MCAS coordinator. Probably not. Sorry. So that, you know, basically takes us to the Rockport's last day without snow days is the 12th of June, and our last day would be the 14th. So with no snow days, GCA last day, and our graduation will be June 14th next year. Gloucester's is on the 17th, and then ours with snow days will be on the 21st.
Send it out.
Any questions?
Nice work.
It's great. The only place where we don't follow the Gloucester calendars, they have half days for professional development, often on Tuesdays. And we thought of moving, just from a bus perspective, to do that. But we have half days on Wednesday. We felt it would just be one more complication for parents to deal with. And so we decided to stick with what we do, which is the Wednesday.
Tony, do we need to approve the calendar also for the submission of the ESC?
I don't know if it's required, since I wasn't sure I put it in as a motion, just to.
Okay, well, it's on the agenda as a motion, let's do it then. Do I hear a motion to approve the calendar that Tony submitted?
Second?
Sure.
Any discussion? Second? There's a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Tony. Okay, the next item on the agenda, review and motion to approve updates to the following documents in the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Role plan, accountability plan, and the draft fiscal year 15 budget.
So we did the budget already, the enrollment and accountability plans, I spoke, those have been submitted to Allison Bagg at the Charter Office. Thank you, Cindy, for everything.
Yeah, thanks, Cindy.
Thanks again.
Thanks. So she has those, and she's indicated that she will get back to us if there are any adjustments needed, that we should delay in our vote until they finalize their approval of those documents. The only sort of significant change at the moment from what we've submitted them several times just to get their feedback, is that for schools that work with a really diverse population of students in terms of the learning styles, learning needs, all of those things, that you want to write your accountability plan so that particularly you identify that it is that students are need to be in your school and enroll in your school for 2 years prior to being assessed in terms of the accountability plan. And I think that for us, that's particularly obvious where it was hard to sort of see some of these headlines and stories over the past year, where not only did we start late and have students for a matter of months, so where they were at had much more to do with the years they spent in other systems than what they did here in our school and in our culture of education. And I think for any school that you want to have them in the school for at least 2 years before you're sort of looking at what's happening there. So
That's good.
So we will have that for the next board meeting in July.
So we vote on that right now. Okay, that's true. So that covers agenda item number 8. Thank you, Tony, very much. Agenda item number 9, consideration of agenda items for the July board meeting. Any thoughts?
Well, obviously, staffing.
Progress
A
in
big one.
Progress in
Facility projects.
Facilities update.
Staff training, orientation. And I brought this up at the last meeting. I think we as a board have some work to do around setting some goals for the board and for Tony, for the executive director. Run those down.
There's a terrific book by John Vogt, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, that he wrote, and I took a seminar at Hamilton Community House, and his particular section was, when he spoke about it, he has a book called Board Rules and Board Goals, and I think that addresses, not that book, but it ties into what you just said about us spending some quality thinking time about who's doing what and how we're going about taking care of business so that we have learned from this year's experiences as a board so we can move forward in a more efficient manner and build upon our successes.
Yeah, along those lines, was there a meeting with governance in our last month about, there were a list of some things that we needed to be addressed? And our bylaws, and whistleblower policy, and all those things, has that happened?
No, we had a meeting in which we discussed terms and renewing 2 board members, and recommending to this board that we do that, but I don't know.
That was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, so I think, for because what we're actually talking about is the agenda for the board meeting, but maybe the agenda for the board meeting would include an update from a recently held governance committee
I
meeting.
think that's a very good idea. That's a very good idea.
And from that particularly would be to review the bylaws of the board and really go through those and review any recommendations that are made from the governance committee. But I think that needs to be a high priority.
I think another item that we could spend some time on is parent communication system.
Yeah, and that, if you look at the minutes we just approved from the last board meeting, they had a review of communication plan. And I guess I want to get some clarification on where the communication plan is being generated, because I'm actually quite happy to come in with a communication plan that we could then all look at. But I wasn't sure whether that would be, because we don't have any longer sort of outreach committee, where that might normally go, but I think it's something that as a full board, I'm happy to put a draft together and present it, but I think there should be a genuine communication plan. Where are public relations press releases? Where are those put together? Who collates them? Who sends them out? I'd like to suggest as part of that communication plan that we have finally ready the new website for at least a preliminary review, because the board's been very kind not to query me on that. But if you look back at our minutes, I think I've had in there for at least 2 months that I was going to present the new website, and it's been close to a year in process. So
Is that what Mike is working on too with you?
he's been working on copy for it. The actual structure of the website is all done. We're needing to put in some more photographs, but it's a very comprehensive website. It allows there are teachers who are going to be receiving trainings. They allow to have web pages. Homework can be posted to it. There's a parent portal where they can actually get access to grades, to upcoming events. I think it's going to be a fairly critical piece of improving the communication of families, and this is a very high priority for us.
Well, you could be working on that now, you can Skype it to us.
Will you have a parent night to explain it all to the parents and how parents can use it?
Actually, I'm glad to bring that up, and maybe that's something to add as well. We have 3 major orientations in the planning stages for next year: students, faculty, and parents. And I presented to some parents this past week on Monday, just before the end of the last day, and talked to them about how we needed to have an orientation not just on the technology and how to use it, so that we know every parent feels comfortable with accessing their students' assignments. We have some thinking inside about just how much access you want, because the system allows you to look at everything from your child's attendance to their homework assignments to their grades. And there's been a lot of discussions in schools about how much information is good, or can it make students feel like they're just, everyone's on top of them all the time. So I think want to have some discussions on that, but the orientation would be on making sure everybody has access to the various communication tools, but equally, how do you be a good ally for your student, and what are the expectations of families as partners in the education, and how can they engage in that? Because one of the changes, I think, for next year is that we're really wanting to have parents much more frequently in the building, participating, reading groups. There are all sorts of ways that we want to engage them in this process. But there's a very good book by Carol Dweck that I'd like to give to parents as part of that orientation, and encouraging them to do some reading about how are you a good ally, and the language you use can actually, just like it does for teachers with students, it can actually encourage a student to take risks, feel good about themselves, and do well, or it can completely stigmatize them, or encourage them to see, if you say, she goes a lot into the language of, well, you're just a natural at it. And it's sort of like, oh, okay, so for the student, working hard and having to persevere isn't what I want to be recognized for. If I look like I'm working, then I'm a failure.
And that's a great book, Tony, because it goes right back to the charter, too, because that her research was in the charter as well. So it's a nice tie that way.
Yeah,
What's
this
the
would be
name of the
great.
book?
What's that?
The name of the book?
I
Or
don't know
how to spell the last
you're
name?
talking
No,
about.
yeah, it's TWECK, I think, and the book is, I'm going to draw a blank. I have it.
Yeah, I'm thinking. It is a good book.
Mindset. She's actually written several, but Mindset was the one that sort of really put her on.
Yeah, I think so. So, I think under that heading, Tony, around communication, I've got a list here: parents, staff. You mentioned the website. I would add to that, I think we ought to be reviewing what's been done around communication for the summer. what the plan is from that point forward, rather than mid-July by that point. 'Cause I think we have some work to do in just getting our message out to parents and making the work that is obviously happening
Visible.
known to everybody else who doesn't attend our meetings and doesn't watch YouTube.
I think that should be one of our goals, and maybe put it as standing one item on our agenda, so that every time we have a meeting, we'll know this is what we want to communicate to them when,
That's a good
I think there was at one point originally an outreach committee. Gordon played a big part on that did that. And I think that people talked about some other type of committee that would.
does that need to be a committee, or does it just need to have people in the school
Well,
tell us
if you want to report in, if you want to have a certain level of reporting, you probably want to have that. But on the other hand, it's just really a question of good volunteer management on an administrative level. It doesn't have to rise to the board level. So, I mean, I think that's a very good point. I mean, you don't have to formalize all this stuff.
But we'd like to hear about it on a monthly basis, so we know
Right.
that it's happening. That's my point.
Oh, and I'd like to add that I think there are some parents who would like to hear school events and or special happenings, academic progress on a weekly basis rather than a monthly basis. And somebody, I know the teachers are a couple of the teachers, Erica and Brianna, have done, this is our plan for the whole week, homework kinds of things. And I think that it would be in our best interest about informing parents to have somebody take ownership for these entries on Thursday evening or Friday for the week coming up. So that's a total of 36 entries.
But one of the things I suggest doing, when I was at Pingree, there was a weekly letter from the head. So I would send out just a weekly letter. It could be about something happening in school, might be thoughts about education, and then just to make it so it wasn't completely onerous in terms of something you're doing, that I would actually divide out to various staff and board members who would take, and we just created the master calendar of who each week was producing the letter.
Have their turn.
Yeah, people could have a turn, so you'd have a math teacher talking about, math education, what they were doing, and but to have that be a regular part of the website, and then and the last part was, and Dave suggested this this morning at the meeting with the faculty, and I used to do this in Ireland. I did it in Pingree, not with the same level of frequency, but in Ireland it had a weekly open door coffee, an open invitation for parents or anyone to come on a particular day of the week. It was the same every week, and they just knew if you wanted to stop in, have a cup of coffee, and have a chat, that you had a way to bring something up. And most of the time it wasn't horrific stuff, but it meant that the channels of communication were much more fluid because someone had something on their mind. They either could just come right over, have a cup of coffee, bring it up right away, and it might be a simple matter of setting the record straight in terms of what was actually happening, explaining something, or they might have sort of caught on to something that you need to address immediately.
So will all these ideas be in this plan you said you were going to write up for us, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to put all of those in there. We also have some volunteers who are very interested in this, the Van Nesses and the Mendozas particularly, want to get involved and help with that. And so, and particularly with this new website where you have the different areas for various academic departments and grade levels, you also have areas in the parent page, the parent portal. And the way the site works, it's incredibly user-friendly. So I think you're going to see that there are actually lots of people. Part of it's not being so dependent upon one individual to be doing the communication and keeping everyone up to date. You end up having lots of people about different areas of that communication.
Is there any way we can start looking at this website? ourselves, or is it like?
Yeah, I'll talk to Nikki. There's a you can actually access it now, and so I will ask Nikki to send you all the password and link.
That'd be great. I can't wait.
Now, having said that, I will remind you that I am still waiting for photographs for most board members.
And some autobiographical material.
So notice that Aaron hasn't put his biography either.
To
He's the
wrap
only one.
wrap up our list for the agenda for next meeting, Tony brought up at the last meeting that we need to discuss the build out of this building
Yes,
for next year. So that definitely coming out on the agenda.
that's a big one, actually.
This is not an agenda item, but it's just a thing that I'm pushing. I'm really hoping that we could find a volunteer, perhaps, to start with, who could start us thinking about the library and also how we use books in the building, and how we can make the place look friendly in a deeper way. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to do that, but I sort of feel as though there's somebody out
I
there.
have an answer for you.
Yeah?
There's a man that owns a store in Manchester called Manchester by the Book.
Mark Stoley.
He is, I talked to him briefly, he's a client of mine. He might be interested in maybe,
Oh, that's a good
Mark
answer.
Stoley, you guys.
with me?
He's got terrific resources.
Yeah, like
And he doesn't
40,000 books.
I mean, he's just got a terrific handle on a whole network of people that
Yeah.
deal in
Online stuff.
and there's a lot.
everything else. I'll talk to him.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
talk to
Yeah,
him.
very good.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. He inherited this tremendous volume of books from grandmother.
I know he's very
Got 10,000 books, and we started the store, and then basically went on, most of the sales is online, but he's someone that might be interested.
Yeah.
Jane, do you have any, can you expand on your thoughts a little bit? I mean, I
Could we
take it,
make this an agenda item?
This is not very much.
I'll talk to you about it. Maybe
Well,
we'll meet.
okay, any other comments about agenda items? Any other comments about the July board meeting?
I hope enrollment will be a standing item.
Yes.
So communication and enrollment should be standing items on our agendas.
Amen.
Okay, terrific. Let's see.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second motion. Any discussion? Any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor, please raise your hand. Vote in favor. Thank you very much.
A record.
Let the record show that at 8